Ah, hai, ini sekarang itu live streaming storytelling pertama ya. Jadi hari ini Eri bakal bacain cerita dari buku Waidan dari Lafcadio Hearn. Ya, ada Hearn-nya juga di belakang. Eri udah lama banget sebenarnya pengen ngasih cerita Youkai dari Lafcadio Hearn, tapi baru sempat sekarang. Halo, halo, halo. Halo, Gaster. Halo, Bayu Hololive. Klik. Oh, first time here. Oh, welcome Mary Clarice. Halo. Ya, dongeng sebelum tidur sekarang. Rui juga ada. Air cleansing session. Nah, ini cuma buat chill. We just chilling here. We're just chilling. Oh, kezoh. Halo, Rizky, Suara. Halo, Jordan. Horor, ikuzoh. Enggak dibilang horor, enggak juga. Atau mungkin Eri yang udah kebal sama horor-horor. Contoh macamnya, Eri lihat dulu mana chapter yang harus dibaca. Ya. Halo Joko, halo Nadiru. Hai. Oh, Eri kayaknya ngantuk. Enggak, Eri bukannya ngantuk sih, tapi sengaja suaranya agak dikecilin supaya nantinya nggak keganggu kalau misalnya mau bobo atau lagi belajar gitu. Oke deh, mulai ya storytellingnya. The Story of Miminashi Hoichi. Jadi Miminashi itu artinya nggak punya telinga. Bisa dilihat nanti dari konteks story-nya ya. More than 700 years ago at Dannoura, in the Straits of Shimonoseki, was fought the last battle of the long contest between the Heike or Taira clan and the Genji or Minamoto clan. There, the Heike perished utterly, with their women and children, and their infant emperor likewise, now remembered as Antoku Tenno. And that sea and shore have been haunted for 700 years. Elsewhere, I told you about the strange crabs found there, called Heike crabs, which have human faces on their backs, and are said to be the spirits of the Heike warriors. But there are many strange things to be seen and heard along the coast. On dark nights, thousands of ghostly fires hover about the beach, or flit above the waves. Pale lights which the fisherman calls onibi, or demon fires. And whenever the winds are up, the sound of great shouting comes from the sea, like a clamor of battle. In former years, the Heike were much more restless than they now are. They would rise about ships passing in the night and try to sink them, and at all times they would watch for swimmers to pull them down. It was in order to appease those dead at the Buddhist temple, Amidaji, that was built at Akamagashi. A cemetery also was made close by, near the beach, and within it were set up monuments inscribed with the names of the drowned emperor and of his great vassals, and Buddhist services were regularly performed there, on behalf of the spirits of them. After the temple had been built and the tombs erected, the Heike gave less trouble than before, but they continued to do queer things at intervals, proving that they had not found the perfect. Some centuries ago, there lived at Akamagasek a blind man named Hoichi, who was famed for his skill in recitation and in playing upon the biwa. Yeah, that is Hoichi. From childhood, he had been trained to recite and play. And while yet a lad, he had surpassed his teachers. Wait. Let me. Is there something wrong with the board? Tadi Ari lihat soalnya ngeblink-blink. Coba matiin. Halo. Oke. Gak ada masalah. Hey, first time here. Welcome to stream. Where we were again? Oh yeah, there. And while yet a lad, he had surpassed his teachers. As professional biwahushi, he became famous chiefly by his recitations of the history of the Heike and the Genji. And it is said that when he sang the song of the Battle of the Dan-no-ura, even the goblins could not refrain from tears. Hello, Nana. Welcome to the stream. Konnichiwa. Okay, let's continue to the next paragraph. At the outset of his career, Hoichi was very poor. But he found a good friend to help him. The priest of the Amidaji was fond of poetry and music, and he often invited Hoichi to the temple to play and recite. Afterwards, being much impressed by the wonderful skill of the lad, the priest proposed that Hoichi should make the temple his home, and this offer was gratefully accepted. Hoichi was given a room in the temple building, and in return for food and lodging, was required only to gratify the priest with a musical performance on certain evenings, when otherwise disengaged. One summer night, the priest was called away to perform a Buddhist service at the house of a dead parishioner, and he went there with his acolyte, leaving Hoichi alone in the temple. It was a hot night, and the blind man sought to cool himself on the veranda before his sleeping room. The veranda overlooked a small garden in the rear of the Amidaji. There, Hoichi waited for the priest's return and tried to relieve his solitude by practicing upon his biwa. Midnight passed, and the priest did not appear, but the atmosphere was still too warm for comfort within the doors, and Hoichi remained outside. At last, he heard steps approaching from the back gate. Somebody crossed the garden, advanced to the veranda, and halted directly in front of him. But it was not the priest. Temple? Yeah. The Hoichi was in a temple. A deep voice called the blind man's name, abruptly and unceremoniously, in the manner of a samurai summoning an inferior. Deep voice, okay. Hoichi. Hi, answered the blind man, frightened by the menace in the voice. I'm blind. I cannot know who calls.
There is nothing to fear,
The stranger exclaimed, speaking more gently.
I am stopping near this temple and have been sent to you with a message. My present lord, a person of exceedingly high rank, is now staying in Akamagaseki with many noble attendants. You wish to view the scene of the Battle of Dan Noura, and today he visits that place. Having heard of your skill in reciting the story of the battle, he now desires to hear your performance. So you will take your biwa and come with me at once to the house where the august assembly is waiting.
In those times, the order of a samurai was not to be lightly disobeyed. Hoichi donned his sandals, took his biwa, and went away with the stranger, who guided him deftly, but obliged him to walk very fast. The hand that guided was iron, and the clank of warrior's stride proved him fully armed. Probably some palace guard on duty. Hoichi's first alarm was over. He began to imagine himself in good luck, for remembering the retainer's assurance about a person of exceedingly high rank. He thought that the lord who wished to hear the recitation could not be less than a daimyo of the first class. Daimyo is some kind of a noble person in Japan. Daimyo itu kayak orang yang dituankan di Jepang. Presently, the samurai halted, and Hoichi became aware that they had arrived at a large gateway. And he wondered, for he could not remember any large gate in that part of the town, except the main gate of Amidaji.
Kaimon!
The samurai called, and there was a sound of unbarring and the twine that passed on. They traversed a space of garden and halted again before some entrance, and the retainer cried in a loud voice, "Within there, I have brought Hoichi." Then came sounds of feet hurrying, and screens sliding, and rain doors opening, and voice of woman in converse. By the language of the woman, Hoichi knew them to be domestics in some noble household. But he could not imagine to what place had he been conducted. Little time was allowed him for conjecture. Hi, Tendo Karin. Water break. Minum dulu. Minum. Oke, lanjut. Let's continue from after he had been helped to mount several stone steps, upon the last of which he was told to leave his sandals, a woman's hand guided him along interminable reaches of polished planking, and round pillared angles too many to remember, and over widths amazing of matted floor, into the middle of some vast apartment. There he thought that many great people were assembled. The sound of the rustings of silk was like the sound of leaves in the forest. He heard also a great humming of voices, talking in undertones, and the speech was the speech of the courts. Oh, Rui, nyesan Rui telat. Gak apa-apa kok. Tadi kan udah muncul juga. Alright, into the next paragraph. Hoichi was told to put himself at ease, and he found a kneeling cushion ready for him. After having taken his place upon it and tuned his instrument, the voice of a woman whom he divined to be the Rojo, or matron in charge of the female service, addressed him, saying, the female voice then, okay. It is now required that the history of the Heike be recited to the wait, let me reread that. It is now required that the history of the Heike be recited to the accompaniment of the biwa. Now, the entire recital would have required a time of many nights. Therefore, Hoichi ventured a question. As the whole of the story is not soon told, what portion is it augustly desired that I now recite? The woman's voice made answer. Recite the story of the battle at Dan Noura, for the pity of it is the most deep. Then Hoichi lifted up his voice and chanted the chant of the fight on the bitter sea, wonderfully making his biwa to sound like the straining of oars and the rushing of ships, the whir and the hissing of arrows, the shouting and trampling of men, the crashing of steel upon helmets, the plunging of slain in the flood, and to left and right of him, in the pauses of his playing, he could hear voices murmuring praise. Wait.
Okay.
Motorimashita. Balik. Gomen. Tadi lupa kunci kamar. I forgot to close the door. And alright, let's continue from here. And to left and right of him, in the pauses of his playing, he could hear voices murmuring praise. How marvelous an artist! Never in our own province was playing her like this. Not in all the empire is there another singer like Hoichi. Then fresh courage came to him, and he played and sang yet better than before. And a hush of wonder deepened about him. But when at last he came to tell the fate of the fair and helpless, the piteous perishing of the women and children, and the death leap of Nino Ama, with the imperial infant in her arms, then all the listeners uttered together in one long, shuddering cry of anguish. And thereafter they wept and wailed so loudly and so wildly that the blind man was frightened by the violence and grief that he made. For much time the sobbing and the wailing continued, but gradually the sounds of lamentation died away. And again, in the great stillness that followed, Hoichi heard the voice of the woman whom he supposed to be the Rojo. She said, "Although we had been assured that you were a skillful player upon the biwa, and without an equal in recitative, we did not know that anyone could be so skillful as you have proved yourself tonight. Our Lord has been pleased to say that he intends to bestow upon you a fitting reward, but he desires that you shall perform before him once every night for the next 6 nights. After which time he returns. After which time he will probably make his August return journey. Tomorrow night, therefore, you are to come here at the same hour. The retainer who tonight conducted you will be sent for you. There is another matter about which I have been ordered to inform you. It is required that you shall speak to no one of your visits here. During the time of our Lord's August sojourn at Akamagaseki, as he is traveling incognito, he commands that no mention of these things be made." Okaeri-ai, tadaima, arigato. You are now free to go back to your temple. After Hoichi had duly expressed his thanks, a woman's hand conducted him to the entrance of the house, where the same retainer who had before guided him was waiting to take him home. The retainer led him to the veranda at the rear of the temple, and there bade him farewell. It was almost dawn when Hoichi returned, but his absence from the temple had not been observed, as the priest, coming back at a very late hour, had supposed him asleep. During the day, Hoichi was able to take some rest, and he said nothing about this strange adventure. In the middle of the following night, the samurai again came for him and led him to the August assembly, where he gave another recitation with the same success that had attended his previous performance. But during the second visit, his absence from the temple was accidentally discovered, and after his return, in the morning, he was summoned to the presence of the priest, who said to him in a tone of kindly reproach, "Voice of a priest, we have been very anxious about you, friend Hoichi, to go out, blind and alone, at so late an hour. It's dangerous. Why did you go without telling us? I could have ordered a servant to accompany you. And where have you been?" Hoichi answered evasively, "Pardon me, kind friend, I had to attend to some private businesses, and I could not arrange the matter at any other hour." The priest was surprised, rather than pained, by Hoichi's reticence. He felt it to be unnatural, and suspected something wrong. He feared that the blind lad had been bewitched or deluded by some evil spirits. He did not ask any more questions, but he privately instructed the manservants of the temple to keep watch upon Hoichi's movements, and to follow him in case that he should again leave the temple after dark. On the very next night, Hoichi was seen to leave the temple, and the servants immediately lighted their lanterns and followed after him.
But it was a rainy night and very dark. And before the temple folks could get to the roadway, Hoichi had disappeared. Evidently, he had walked very fast. A strange thing, considering his blindness. Yeah, he could not see. Tak bisa lihat si Hoichi-nya. For the road was in a bad condition. The man hurried through the streets, making inquiries at every house which Hoichi was accustomed to visit. But nobody could give them any news of him. At last, as they were returning to the temple by the way of the shore, they were startled by the sound of a biwa furiously played in the cemetery of Amidaji, except for some ghostly fires, such as usually featured there on dark nights. Wait, where was it again? Wait, let me see. Okay. Except for some ghostly fires, such as usually faded there on dark nights. All was blackness in that direction. But the men at once hastened to the cemetery, and there, by the help of their lanterns, they discovered Hoichi, sitting alone in the rain before the memorial tomb of Antokutenno, making his biwa resound and loudly chanting the chant of the Battle of Dan-Nora. And behind him, and about him, and everywhere above the tombs, the fires of the dead were burning like candles. Never before had so great a host of onibi appeared in the sight of mortal man. Oh, okay, another voice acting. Okay, then. Mengrelax ya. Glad you can relax. Hoichi-san! Hoichi-san! The servants cried. You are bewitched! Hoichi-san! But the blind man did not seem to hear. Strenuously he made his biwa to rattle and ring and clang. More and more wildly he chanted the chant of the Battle of Dan-Nora. They caught hold of him. They shouted into his ear. Hoichi-san! Hoichi-san! Come home with us! At once! Reprovingly, he spoke to them. To interrupt me in such a manner before this august assembly will not be tolerated. Hello, Ilham Azizul Hakim. Welcome to the stream. Alright. Whereat, in spite of the weirdness of the thing, the servants could not help laughing. Sure that he had been bewitched, they now seized him and pulled him on his feet, and by main force hurried him back to the temple, where he was immediately relieved of his wet clothes by order of the priest. Then the priest insisted upon a full explanation of his friend's astonishing behavior. Cerita apa ini? Oh, ini tentang tadi Miminashi Hoichi, kalau nggak salah. Tentang seorang pemain biwa alias gitar Jepang. Oke deh. Let's continue. Hoichi long hesitated to speak, but at last, finding that his conduct had really alarmed and angered the good priest, he decided to abandon his reserve, and he related everything that had happened from the time of first visit of the samurai. The priest said, Hoichi, my poor friend,
You are now in great danger. How unfortunate that you did not tell me all this before. Your wonderful skill in music has indeed brought you into strange trouble. By this time, you must be aware that you have not been visiting any house whatever, but have been passing your nights in the cemetery, among the tombs of the Heike. And it was before the memorial tomb of Antoku Tenno that our people tonight found you, sitting in the rain. All that you have been imagining was illusion, except the calling of the dead. By once obeying them, you have to put yourself in their power. If you obey them again, after what has already occurred, they will tear you in pieces. But they will have destroyed you sooner or later in any event. Now, I shall not be able to remain with you tonight. I'm called away to perform another service, but before I go, it will be necessary to protect your body from writing holy text upon it. And Miss Fishy, your English is so good. Arigato. I'm still learning English, thank you. Before sundown, the priest and his acolytes stripped Hoichi. Then, with their writing brushes, they traced upon his breast and back, head and face and neck, limbs and hands and feet. Head, shoulders, knees, and toes, I guess. Even upon the soles of his feet, and upon all parts of his body. The text of the Holy Sutra, called Hanya Shinkyo. Hello, Spooky Boogie. Welcome to stream. Alright. When this had been done, the priest instructed Hoichi, saying, "Tonight, as soon as I go away, you must seat yourself on the veranda and wait. You will be called, but whatever may happen, do not answer and do not move. Say nothing and sit still, as if meditating. If you stir or make any noise, you will be torn asunder. Do not get frightened, and do not think of calling for help, because no help could save you. If you do exactly as I tell you, the danger will pass, and you will have nothing more to fear." After the dark priest and the acolyte went away, and Hoichi seated himself on the veranda. According to the instructions given him, he laid his biwa on the planking beside him, and assuming the attitude of meditation, remained quite still, taking care not to cough or to breathe audibly. For hours he stayed thus. Then, from the roadway, he heard the steps coming. They passed the gate, crossed the garden, approached the veranda, stopped directly in front of him.
Hoichi!
The deep voice called, but the blind man held his breath and sat motionless.
Hoichi!
Grimly called the voice a second time, then a third time savagely.
Hoichi!
Hoichi remained as still as a stone, and the voice grumbled.
"No answer! That won't do! You must see where the fellow is."
There was a noise of heavy feet mounting upon the veranda. The feet approached deliberately, halted beside him. Then, for long minutes, during which Koichi felt his whole body shake to the beating of his heart. There was dead silence. At last, the gruff voice muttered close to him.
Here's the biwa, but of the biwa player I see, only 2 ears, so that explained why he did not answer. He had no mouth to answer with. There is nothing left of him but his ears. Now, to my lord, those ears I will take, in the proof that the august commands have been obeyed, so far as was possible.
At that instant, Koichi felt his ears gripped with the fingers of iron and torn off. Great as the pain was, he gave no cry. The heavy footfalls receded along the veranda, descended into the garden, passed out to the roadway, ceased. From either the side of his head, the blind man felt a thick warmth trickling, but he dared not lift his hands. Before sunrise, the priest came back. He hastened at once to the veranda in the rear, stepped and slipped upon something clammy, and uttered a cry of horror, for he saw, by the light of his lantern, that the clamminess was blood. But he perceived Hoichi sitting there, in the attitude of meditation, with the blood still oozing from his wounds.
My poor Hoichi!
cried the startled priest.
What is this? You have been hurt.
At the sound of his friend's voice, the blind man felt safe. He burst out sobbing and cheerfully told his adventure of the night.
Poor Hoichi!
The priest exclaimed.
All my fault, my very grievous fault. Everywhere upon your body the holy text had been written, except upon your ears. I trusted my acolyte to do the part of the work, and it was very, very wrong of me to not have made sure that he had done it. Well, the matter cannot be helped. We can only try to heal your hurts as soon as possible. Cheer up, friend. The danger is now well over. You will never again be troubled by those visitors.
With the aid of a good doctor, Luigi soon recovered from his injuries. The story of his strange adventures spread far and wide, and soon made him famous. Many noble persons went to Akamagaseki to hear him recite, and large presents of money were given to him, so that he became a wealthy man. But from the time of his adventure, he was known only by the appellation of Miminashi Hoichi, also called Hoichi the Earless. Yes, that ends the story of Miminashi Hoichi. Jadi ya, begitulah kenapa si Hoichi itu dibilang gak punya telinga. Hey, Aloy, Nari Akira, welcome to the stream. Gak, ya, udah dibilang iri juga. Kan gak horor-horor juga. Water break, minum dulu. Aduh. Suara botolnya keras banget ya. Lumennya. Water bottle sounds ASMR. Moving on to the next story. Oshidori. Yeah, Uchop. Hello, Uchop. Welcome to the stream.
There was a falconer and hunter named Sonjo who lived in the district called Tamuranoko of the province of Mutsu.
Ada Uchop. Bisa lepas kacamata. Oh, bisa. Cetok. Ini lepas ya. Itu. Tapi nanti bakal apa ya? Don't mind ya. Don't mind. Itu. Kok nggak salah. Dia kacamata. Satu. One. Ini kan Toricata. Bisa dilepas kacamatanya. Yes. Anda aja ucap enggak aneh kok. Ada. Hello Indomie baby girl. Nani? Why Indomie? Oke deh, Eri lanjut stream kayak gini aja ya, gak pakai kacamata. The next story, I will try to read it without my glasses. Hey. The next story is Oshidori. Okay. Let me try to start from zero again. There was a falconer and hunter named Sonjo who lived in the district called Tamuranoko of the province of Mutsu. One day he went out hunting and could not find any game. But on his way home at a place called Akanuma, he perceived a pair of Oshidori, or what is called by one Mandarin ducks. Akira, arigato. Gila cantiknya. Enggak kok. Ya. Kukira Kak Eri nggak bisa baca tanpa kacamata. Bisa kok, bisa. Cuma ya agak blur aja. Eri kacamatanya nggak terlalu tebal. Yes. He perceived a pair of Oshidori or Mandarin ducks. Eri juga nggak ngerti sebenarnya. Mandarin ducks. Coba China enggak. Okay. Let's continue. Swimming together in a river that he was about to cross. To kill Oshidori is not good. Oh, okay. So Oshidori is a duck. It's a little duck. Okay. But Sonjo happened to be very hungry, and he shot at the pair. His arrow pierced the male. The female escaped into the rushes of the further shore and disappeared. Sonjo took the dead bird home and cooked it. Oh, yikes. Poor duck. That night he dreamed a dreary dream. It seemed to him that a beautiful woman came into his room and stood by his pillow and began to weep. So bitterly did she weep that Sonjo felt as if his heart were being torn out while he listened. And the woman cried to him. Okay. Why? Oh, why did you kill him? Of what wrong was he guilty? At Akanuma, we were so happy together. and you killed him. What harm did he ever do you? Do you ever know what you have done? Oh, do you know what a cruel, what a wicked thing you have done? Me too, you have killed, for I will not live without my husband. Only to tell you this I came. Then again, she wept aloud so bitterly that the voice of her crying pierced into the marrow of the listener's bones. And she sobbed out the words of this poem. Japanese poem. Let me try if I can pronounce it. いくれれば誘えし者を赤沼のまこものくれの一人ねのぞうきいやわからない。At the coming of twilight, I invited him to return with me, now to sleep alone in the shadows of the rushes Akanuma. Ah, what misery unspeakable! Poor duck. And after having uttered these verses, she claimed, Ah, you do not know, you cannot know what you have done. But tomorrow, when you go to Akanuma, you will see. So saying, and weeping very piteously, she went. When Sonja awoke in the morning, this dream remained so vivid in his mind that he was greatly troubled. He remembered the words, But tomorrow, when you go to Akanuma, you will see. And he resolved to go there at once, that he might learn whether his dream was anything more than it. So he went to Akanuma, and there, when he came to the river bank, he saw the female Oshidori swimming alone. Oh. In the same moment, the bird perceived Sonju, but instead of trying to escape, she swam straight towards him, looking at him the while in a strange fixed way. Then, with her beak, she suddenly tore upon her own body and died before the hunter saw it. And duck. Sonju shaved his head and became a priest. Oh, okay, so that's the end of the story of the Oshidori. Ya, jadi si Oshidori ini seekor bebek yang tadi akhirnya apa namanya tuh end her life karena dibunuh suaminya. Poor dog. Welcome to the stream Binajalar. Keren. Arigato. Jadi cuma lagi baca-baca kok. Okay, then to the next story. Wait, water break. Minum dulu. Welcome to the stream, Kak. Saya cute. Ada. Itu cute jenai. Ya. Mario, welcome to the stream, Mario. Yosh. The next story of Ote. A long time ago, in the town of Niigata, in the province of Echizen, there lived a man called Nago Jose. Nago was the son of a physician and was educated for his father's profession. At an early age, he had been betrothed to a girl called Ote, the daughter of one of his father's friends, and both families had agreed that the wedding should take place as soon as Nago had finished his studies. But the health of Ote proved to be weak, and in her 15th year, she was attacked by a fatal consumption. Hello, Tafius Aeterna. Welcome to the stream. Okay, let's continue the story. When she became aware that she must die, she sent for Nago to bid him farewell. As he knelt at her bedside, she said to him, Nago-sama, my betrothed, we were promised to each other from the time of our childhood, and we were to have been married at the end of this year. But now I'm going to die. The gods know what is best for us. If I were able to live for some years longer, I could only continue to be cause of trouble and grief for others. With this frail body, I could not be a good wife, and therefore even to wish to live for your sake will be a very selfish wish. I am quite resigned to die, and I want you to promise that you will not grieve. Besides, I want to tell you that I think we shall meet again. Indeed, we shall meet again, Nago answered earnestly. And in that pure land there will be no pain of separation. Nay, she responded softly. I meant not the pure land. I believe that we are destined to meet again in this world, although I shall be buried tomorrow. Nago looked at her wonderingly, and saw her smile at him wonderingly. She continued in her gentle tone. Yes, I mean in this world, in your own present life, Nago-sama. Providing indeed that you wish it. Only for this thing to happen, I must again be born a girl and grow up to womanhood. So you will have to wait 16 years, that is a long time. But my promised husband, you are now only 19 years old. Your soothed her dying, he answered tenderly. To wait for you, my betrothed, were no less a joy than a duty. We are pledged to each other for the time of heaven existed. But you don't? She questioned, watching his face. My dear one, he answered. I doubt whether I shall be able to know you in another body, under another name, unless you can tell me of a sign or a token. That I cannot do, she said. Only the gods and the Buddhas know how and where we shall meet. But I am sure, very, very sure, that if you be not unwilling to receive, I shall be able to come back to you. Remember these words of mine. She ceased to speak, and her eyes closed. She was dead. Nago had been sincerely attached to Ote, and he was dead. He had a mortuary tablet made, inscribed with her Dokyo, and he placed the tablet in his Sudan, and every day set offerings before it. He thought a great deal about the strange things that Oche had said to him just before her death. And in the hope of pleasing her spirit, he wrote a solemn promise to wed her if she could ever return to him in another body. This written promise he sealed with a seal and placed in the Butsudan beside the mortuary tablet of Oche. Welcome to the stream, Rahmat Hidayat. Setelah 57 menit, gak apa-apa. Eri masih kira-kira 30 menit lagi. Alright. Let's continue. Nevertheless, as Naga was an only son, it was necessary that he should marry. He soon found himself obliged to yield to the wishes of his family, and to accept a wife of his father's choosing. After his marriage, he continued to set offerings before the tablet of Ote, and he never failed to remember her with affection. But why? Alright then. But by degrees, her image became dim in his memory, like a dream that is hard to recall, and the years went by. During those years, many misfortunes came upon him. He lost his parents by death, then his wife and his only child, so that he found himself alone in the world. He abandoned his desolate home and set out upon a long journey in the hope of forgetting his sorrow. One day, in the course of his travels, he arrived at Youkai. Hi, welcome to the stream. Ivania, welcome to the stream. Let's just chill. Chilling here. Chill. Okay, continuing to the next paragraph. One day, in the course of his travels, he arrived at Youkai, a mountain village still famed for its thermal springs and for the beautiful scenery of its neighborhood. In the village inn at which he stopped, a young girl came to wait upon him, and at the first sight of her face, he felt his heart leap as it had never leaped before. So strangely did she resemble Oche that he pinched himself to make sure that he was not dreaming. Okay, so jadi dia nemu orang yang mirip Oche di lamanya. Alright. As she went and came, bringing fire and food, or arranging the chamber of the guest, her every attitude and motion revived in him some gracious memory of the girl to whom he had been pledged his youth. Spoke to her, and she responded in a soft, clear voice of which sweetness saddened the sadness of others. Then, in great wonder, he questioned her, saying, berarti suara cowok. Okay. Elder sister, so much do you look like a person whom I knew long ago, that I was startled when you first entered this room. Pardon me, therefore, before asking what is your native place and what is your name. Immediately, and in the unforgotten voice of the dead, she thus made an answer. My name is Otei, and you are Nagao Josei of Echigo, my promised husband. 17 years ago, I died in Niigata. Then you made in writing a promise to marry me, if ever I could come back to this world in the body of a woman. And you sealed that written promise with her seal, and put it in the Butsudan, beside the tablet inscribed with my name. And therefore I came back. As she uttered these last words, she fell unconscious. So reincarnation. Binary Akira hati-hati, malah Eri yang ketiduran. Kok Eri's drunk. Mau bobo silahkan. You wanna sleep then it's okay too. Sleep is good. Oke deh. Continuing the story. Nagao married her, and the marriage was a happy one. But at no time afterwards could she remember what she had told him in answer to his question at Ikao. Neither could she remember anything of her previous existence. The recollection of the former birth, mysteriously kindled in the moment of that meeting, had again become obscured, and so thereafter remained. Oke, jadi itu cerita tentang Ote. Keingat Ocean. Tapi kalau Ocean bukan tentang reinkarnasi ya. Kalau Ote emang tentang reinkarnasi. Tadi. Oke, there. Mantap, coba lihat. Berapa lah cerita lagi ya ceritain? 2 cerita lagi deh. Two more stories. Oke. Aduh, fotoing. Komen. Tracking matanya agak anu. Jadi pengen bobo di pangkuan Eri. Buatnya di apa namanya tuh? Blanket. Aduh. Bilingual. Bye. Sayonara language. Aduh. Oke deh, blanket aja. Di blanket Eri sini. Kalau nggak boleh di pangkuan Eri. Geli, Eri penggeli. Aduh. Oke deh, to the next story. Ubazakura. 300 years ago, the village called Asamimura, in the district called Onsenguri, in the province of Hyo, there lived a good man named Tokube. This Tokube was the richest person in the district, and the Muraosa, or headman of the village. In most matters, he was fortunate, but he reached the age of 40 without knowing the happiness of becoming a father. Before he and his wife, in the affliction of their childlessness, addressed many prayers to the divinity Kudomyo-o, who had a famous temple called Taihoji in Asamimura. At last their prayers were heard. The wife of Tokubei gave birth to a daughter. The child was very pretty. She was received the name of Tsuyu. As the mother's milk was deficient, a milk nurse called Osode was hired for the little one. Otsuyu grew up to be a very beautiful girl, but at the age of 15, she fell sick. Yeah, 15. Poor girl. And the doctor thought that she was going to die. In that time, the nurse Osode, who loved Osuyu with a real mother's love, went to the temple of Saihoji and fervently prayed to Fudo-sama on behalf of the girl. Yeah, because the girl cannot move because she's sick. Every day for 21 days, she went to the temple and prayed. And at the end of the time, Otsuyu suddenly and completely recovered. Wah, waduh, klinik kantong ini. Jangan-jangan tempelnya. Gak. Kak Eri baca storynya sambil merem ya. Nggak itu eye tracking ya, anu. Komen nih. Aduh. Then there was great rejoicing in the house of Tokubei, and he gave a feast to all his friends in celebration of the happy event. But on the night of the feast, the nurse Osode was suddenly taken ill, and on the following morning, the doctor, who had been summoned to attend her, announced that she was dying. Lah, kok, loh, kok tiba-tiba sekarat? Why is she dying again? Oh, welcome to the stream, as I mentioned channel. Hello. Okay, let's continue. Then the family, in great sorrow, gathered about her bed, bid her farewell, but she said to them, "It is time that I should tell you something which you do not know. My prayer had been heard. I besought Fudo-sama that I might be permitted to die in the place of Otsuyu, and this great favor had been granted. Therefore, you must not grieve about my death, but I have one request to make. I promise Fudo-sama that I will have a cherry tree planted in the garden of Saihoji for a thank offering and a commemoration. Now, I shall not be able myself to plant the tree there, so I must beg that you will fulfill that vow for me. Goodbye, dear friends, and remember that I was happy to die for Otsuyu's sake." So that's why so that's why. Reject humanity became burritos. Aduh. Ya, gak gitu juga tuh, Kak. Okay, let's continue to the next paragraph. After the funeral of Osode, a young cherry tree, finest that could be found, was planted in the garden of Saihoji by the parents of Osuyu. The tree grew and flourished, and on the 16th day of the second month of the following year, the anniversary of Osode's death, it blossomed in a wonderful way. So it continued to blossom for 254 years. Wow! Always upon the 16th day of the second month. And its flowers pink and white, or like the Nani? We're like the. Is it okay for me to say that? Well, okay then. Oh well. And its flowers, pink and white, were like the nipples of a woman's breast. Bedewed with milk. And the people call it Ubazakura, the cherry tree of the milkers. Nani? That was weird. Okay, that was a weird story, but okay. Okay then. Am I still say so? Questioning my say so-ness. Yeah, aduh. Yeah. Yeah. Okay then. This is the last story. Diplomacy. Yeah. Sumasen. Sorry. Okay then. It had been ordered that the execution should not take place in the garden of the yashiki. So the man was taken there and made to kneel down in a white sanded space crossed by the line of tobi ishi, or stepping stones. ちょっと待ってね。Someone is calling. ちょっと待って。F か。 I'm back. I. Ah. Hey. Let's continue the story. Oh. The BGM. Oh yeah. I really like the BGM as well. So chill. Real chill. Okay. Then. Oh yeah. The comments in the previous story, yeah. And this is normal in old tales. Oh, yeah. I think I understand. Old lady's tale. Hai, tidak simak. Alright. This is the last story. Okay, diplomacy. Wait. Where was I again? Yikes. Okay. So. Oh yeah. There. I think I remember where was I. Okay. His arms were bound behind him. Retainers brought water in buckets and rice bags filled with pebbles, and they packed the rice bags round the kneeling man, so wedging him in that he could not move. The masters came and observed the arrangements. He found them satisfactory and made no remarks. Suddenly, the condemned man cried out to him, "Honored sir, the fall for which I have been doomed, I did not willingly. My tongue. Yikes. Oh god, sorry. Honored sir, the fall for which I have been doomed, I did not willing. Eddie crying. I did not wittingly commit. Finally. It was only my great stupidity which caused the fall. Having been born stupid, by reason my karma, I could not always help making mistakes. But to kill a man for being stupid is wrong, and that wrong will be repaid. So surely as you kill me, so surely shall I be avenged. Out of the resentment that will come the vengeance, and evil will be rendered for evil." Ayah. Buying. Yeah, pronunciation. If any person be killed while feeling strong resentment, the ghost of that person will be able to take vengeance upon the killer. This the samurai knew. He replied very gently, almost caressingly, "We shall allow you to frighten us as much as you please after you are dead, but it is difficult to believe that you mean what you say. Will you try to give us some sign of your great resentment after your head has been cut off?" "Surely I will," answered the man. "Very well," said the samurai, drawing his long sword. I am now going to cut you off. I am now going to cut off your head. Directly in front of you there is a stepping stone. After your head has been cut off, try to bite off the stepping stone. If you are angry ghost, can help you to do that." Some of us may be frightened. Will you try to bite the stone? "I will bite it," cried the man in great anger. I will bite it. I will bite. There was a flash, a swish, a crunching thud. The bound body bowed over the rice sack. 2 long blood jets popping from the short neck, and the head rolled upon the sand. Heavily toward the stepping stone it rolled. Then, suddenly bounding, it caught the upper edge of the stone between its teeth, clung desperately for a moment, and dropped inert. Oh. The danger is real. No one spoke, but the retainers stared in horror at their master. He seemed to be quite unconcerned. He merely held out his sword to the nearest attendant, who, with a wooden dipper, poured water over the blade from the haft to the point. And then carefully wiped the steel several times with sheets of soft paper. And thus ended the ceremonial part of the incident. Okay. For months thereafter, the retainers and the domestics lived in ceaseless fear of ghostly visitation. None of them doubted that the promised vengeance would come, and their constant terror caused them to hear and to see much that did not exist. They became afraid of the sound of the wind in the bamboos, afraid even of the stirring of the shadows in the garden. At last, after taking counsel together, they decided to petition their master to have a segaki service performed on behalf of the vengeful spirit. Quite unnecessary, the samurai said, when his chief retainer had uttered the general wish. Chief retainer, I understand that the desire of a dying man for revenge may be a cause for fear, but in this case there is nothing to fear. The retainer looked at his master beseechingly, but hesitated to ask the reason of the alarming confidence. Oh, the reason is simple enough, declared the samurai, divining the last unspoken doubt. Only the very last intention of the fellow could have been dangerous, and when I challenged him to give me the sign, I diverted his mind from the desire of revenge. He died with the set purpose of biting the stepping stone, and that purpose he was able to accomplish, but nothing else. All the rest he must have forgotten, so you need not feel any further anxiety about the matter. And indeed, the dead man gave no more trouble. Nothing at all happened. That was an interesting story. Tuh, trik-trik supaya hantu gak jadi penasaran. Kasih reason yang kuat dulu sebelum dia mati. Suruh ngegigit stepping stone sampai dia lupa buat revenge. Satu dicoba. Enggak. No. Don't try that. Don't. No. For that, you have to kill a person, and that is bad. No. Not kill a person. Right then. And that is end of this storytelling stream. That is the last story of this stream. Arigato minna for coming. Thank you everyone for coming to the stream. Interesting indeed, yeah. It was a clever one, if I have to say. Yeah, I do say so myself. Alright then. It is time for us to sleep, or if you wanna continue working, then it's okay. Oh yeah, alright. Everyone is to show something. Uh, Eri is now using a new, what do you call it? Live 2D, live 2D, live 2D program. Yeah. Just to end the stream. Everyone is try something. Eri can wink. Yeah, finally. Yeah. Wink. Yeah, hi. Yes. Right. Arigato now for coming to stream. Good night. Or gambatte for whom's working. Or anybody's working. Otsukaeris. Hope you enjoy the stream. Bye.